Alright, take number 2. If you're wondering, my microphone died while I was recording this episode, and I my audio cut out partway through, and so I had to delete it and redo it. So I had to charge my microphone. So let's try that again. Hi, I'm Andrew, and welcome to episode 24 of the Neon Knitter podcast. Usually I film these in one take, but you see, unless you're good at lip reading, it's a little hard to know what I'm saying if the audio cuts out. So, yeah, so I had to charge my microphone. So this is take number 2. So, episode 24. I have 4 whips and a bunch of acquisitions to share with you guys today. I don't have any finished objects, um, but I thought that it would be a good idea to get an episode out for you guys because it's been a while since I put one out. So I think I put episode 23 out in December, and it's already February, so yeah. First, I am wearing the Triangolo shirt by Johanna Selwich. The pattern is available for free. It's only in German. Somebody translated it to English for me. If you would like to know more about this, I forget what episode number it is, but I have a podcast episode where the thumbnail of the video is me wearing this. That would be the one that gives you information. Also, the Everything I Knit in 2025 video also will give you information about this top. So, let's get into the whips. I'm going to start with the one that I am almost done with. Excuse me. This is the Blank Slate Tee by Winter's Weather Knits. And, excuse me. Sorry, I'm picking some hair off of it. All I have to do is sew the side seams and the seams on the sleeves, and then put the neck on. I haven't put the neckline on yet. And then it's done. I even have my piece of yarn right here to seam it with. But I haven't done too many seamed garments before, and so I'm just so used to, when I bind off, just breaking my yarn and calling it a day. Never occurred to me to leave a long tail. So, I have to attach my piece of yarn and then sew my seam. And it calls for mattress stitch. So, I spent the better part of like half to 3/4 of a day sewing the seam, and I got maybe 3/4 of the way done. And then I noticed that every time I was tightening it, it was pulling the other end of the strand out, even though I thought I secured it down. So, okay, my instinct is to tug on the other end of the strand to maybe pull some slack so I have a tail. That was not a good idea. The strand of yarn snapped, and my whole seam came out. So this thing has been on timeout ever since. So, yeah, I'm hoping to get this done so I can wear it to Shepherd's Harvest because I bought the yarn 2 years ago. So the red yarn, and by the way, the back doesn't have the intarsia rectangle, just the front. The back, or the red yarn is brown sheep. Sorry, I'm blanking. I filmed my first take earlier in the morning when I was more awake, and now it's past 10 p.m. when I'm doing this. So Don't mind me if I'm a little forgetful at this hour. Um, the red yarn is Brown Sheep Lamb's Pride Superwash Sport, and the color is called Shane's Red. And then the variegated skein is a skein that I got from Nome Schoolhouse. They're located in Nome, North Dakota. They are a retreat venue for fiber arts related events. Anyways, they usually have a booth at Shepherd's Harvest every year, and so I got it at their Shepherd's Harvest booth. I think it's a wool and silk blend. I don't know. It didn't have a specific name. It just said Dakota Spun Sport. So the color didn't really have a name, but it's a one of a kind skein. So, yeah. So that is the Blank Slate Tee by Winter's Weather Knits. Hopefully I should have it done by the next episode, and if not this, then a different project will be finished. Because I'm not going to film another episode till I have a finished object to share. But I just thought you guys should see some content from me, since I didn't upload anything in January. So, there we go. That is that. My next whip, let me see if I can find where I put it. Oh, it's over here. Okay. My next whip is a new cast on. It is this. Oops. So this is the So Faded sweater by Andrea Mowry. And it's a sweater that uses 5 different colors of fingering weight yarn, and you fade them together. And I'm on my second color. This is all yarn that I bought in, I think it was 2022 when I visited the Grand Canyon. I bought this at the yarn shop in Flagstaff, Arizona, Pearl in the Pines, which is since sadly gone out of business. Also, 2 of the 4 dyers in my palette here have sadly gone out of business also. Now I said 5 colors, but 4 dyers. That's because 2 of the yarns are from the same dyer in the same base, just a different colorway. But they're all 4 Arizona dyers, so I do think that that is pretty cool. So let's start with my first color in the palette, which is my red. This is Mary Gavin Yarns Sierra. It is 80% superwash merino, 20% cashmere, 420 yards, and the color is called Sedona Sunset. So that is my first color in the fade. And then my second color is this. This is the one currently attached to the project. This is Less Traveled Yarn 757 sock. It is 75% 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards. And the color is called Antelope Canyon. So there's that. And then here is my third color, is this. So this is Dream in Color Smooshy Cashmere. It is 70% superwash merino, 20% cashmere, 10% nylon, 400 yards. And the color is called Catching Stars. And then my fourth color is this one. This is Blackbird Fiber Studio 2-ply fingering. It is 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 400 yards, and the color is called I'm Coming Out. One of the cool things about Blackbird Fiber Studio is that whenever they come up with a new color, it's always named after a song, and then they always include the Spotify link to that song. And this was from her Pride collection from 2022, and all the other colors in the collection were like different colors of the rainbow, but I thought this fit the fade nicely. Blackbird Fiber Studio has sadly gone out of business. The other one that's gone out of business is Mary Gavin Yarns. At least I'm assuming they went out of business because their websites aren't available anymore and their social media got deleted, so I would assume they went out of business. Okay, Blackbird Fiber Studio had an Etsy store, but their Etsy store is not available anymore, so yeah. Pearl in the Pines was the only shop that Blackbird sold at. Otherwise, they sold on their Etsy shop, so they lost their brick and mortar retailer basically. So yeah, so that might have something to do with them having to fold up shop. So here's my fifth and final color. This is Dream in Color Smooshy Cashmere, and I already gave you the details on the other skein of this yarn I had, but the color is called Sundance. And I could try to hold all 5 of those up for you, or I could just pop a photo on the screen of when they were still in their hanks. I took a picture of the whole fade. So, yeah. The picture's in reverse order because I originally bought the yarn to knit the Fiery Foliage shawl by Stephen West, but decided that I wanted to make a sweater instead. So, yeah. So, my third whip, I am very proud of this one. This you will remember if you have been a longtime viewer of my channel. This is a project that I started just under 3 years ago, and I worked on it for a little bit. I was super into it, and then I set it down and never worked on it again. I finally picked it up and worked on it. Super proud of myself. So, this is the Zebra Pullover by Arnie and Carlos from Vogue Knitting Fall 2019. I'm knitting the back part right now. So, yeah, I'm very happy with how it's going. I don't have a ton of time to work on it because, of course, this project isn't super portable because of the fact that it's intarsia. But I did a little cheating. I'm not gonna lie, I did a little cheating. So I did the big stripes how they were supposed to be done, and then this little tiny bottom part of the tail, I couldn't be bothered to have 7 different bobbins going, so I just did stranded color work because why not? It looks just fine on the front, so who's gonna know? So that's what I did for that part because I just didn't want a million pieces of yarn going. So the back side has the tail, the front side has the zebra face, and the sleeves have some zebra stripe details as well. So this, to date, is the most complicated thing I have ever made. So, yeah. Not every day that I have to print out a chart and physically scribble each row off so that I can keep track of where I'm going. Usually I just use Knit Companion. But I use the free version, so I use the free version of Nik Companion, so I uh, don't have all the fancy features with the charts. And even if I did, it would still be preferable for me to be able to physically cross it off and be able to count each individual stitch in the chart when it's on paper. So, yeah. Okay, my fourth and final whip that I'm sharing with you. I have a lot more whips than that, but these are just the ones I've worked on recently. Um, my fourth and final whip is my most recent cast on and my most active project currently. It is this. This is the Overalls Dress by Tiva Durham, and I'm trying to get this done so I can wear it to Pride Fest in June. Now, since I do live in the Twin Cities, I'm only going to Pride Fest if there's not still a ton of ice activity. If there's too many ice agents around, then I don't want to go to Pride Fest out of fear, and then I'll just order my 2026 Pride Fest pin on their website instead. But I'm hoping that the ice activity will die down enough for me to be able to go to Pride Fest, because I went for the first time last year and I loved it so much. So, yeah, this is the yarn I'm using. It is Quaker Yarn Sail Windtuck Knitting Worsted. It is 100% acrylic, and the color is called Lilac. And this is vintage yarn. It's old enough to where it doesn't say the label, or bleh. Sorry. Again, it's past 10 p.m. I'm gonna stumble on my words. Um, this yarn is old enough to where they used to not put yardages on yarn labels. So, yeah, but I got 5 of them, which should be plenty, because I got these at Goodwill, and we happen to have 5 of them come in the shop. I say we. Last summer I used to work at Goodwill. When I moved into my school program here, I did have to leave my job there, but I'm hoping to have another job this coming summer. That's my goal. Um, but yeah, this is vintage yarn from somewhere between the 50s, 60s, and 70s. I'm not quite sure. And I've also never found 100% acrylic yarn in Hanks before, so that was an interesting packaging. But nonetheless, I think it's knitting up really nice. Um, so, yeah. And this pattern's from 2009, so yeah. There's a Ravelry listing for it, but you do have to buy the pattern off of Interweave. So, yeah, the Ravelry listing just links to Interweave. Um, and the overall hardware I'm using for it, I also thrifted. I got that at the stashery at the Textile Center in Minneapolis. I do have a tour of the stashery on my channel if you're curious, so you can go check that out. Um, and then the shirt to go under this, I also bought at Goodwill. So yeah, very excited to see how this turns out. I'm knitting it 2 inches longer than the pattern said to, just so that I can be convinced that I'm fully covered, even though I'm going to have tights on when I wear it, but just to be safe. So yeah, looking forward to Pride Fest. Hopefully, if there isn't too much ice activity, like I said, because I just want to play it safe. But yeah, so there is that. Okay, now we're moving on to acquisitions. And I have quite a few acquisitions, actually. Excuse me. So this is my first acquisition. This is Karen's Slice of Anniversary Cake. And it is 100% acrylic, super bulky number 6, machine washable and dryable. I don't trust that. I hand wash everything I make. Um, and it is 285 yards. And the color is called golden. So this here is the Karen anniversary cake. It is over 1,000 yards. Otherwise, it's the same yard, but it's over 1,000 yards. I've had this cake for a while. The color is called Spice Dots, in case you're wondering. And so here's the size comparison to the regular versus the slice. Um, so, but the slice of anniversary cakes comes in some solids, whereas the regular ones never did. And so I thought it would be fun, even though I can make a whole entire garment out of this because there's plenty. It's over 1,000 yards of a super bulky number 6. Like there's enough to knit a whole entire dress, which might be actually what I end up doing. Not sure yet. Um, but I thought it would be fun if I got this and added some contrast ribbing. I think the golden would go nice with the Spice Dots colorway. So, yeah. So I think I'm going to add some contrast with this. So that is the whole reason I bought that cake. That's the whole reason I bought it, was to add some contrast to this big cake here. I would pull it down and show you, but everything here would probably collapse, so I don't want to have to deal with that. So it's less cleanup for me if I don't take the big cake down, unless I'm going to use it. So, yeah. But that is my first acquisition. I got it at Michael's, obviously, because it's a Karen Cake product. So, yeah. And then my next acquisition, I got 2 sweater quantities of yarn. So, Thursday nights, I go to a knitting group. Just in case you're in the Twin Cities and you want to come to, it is located at the Highland Park Library in St. Paul, Minnesota. It is Thursday nights from 5:30 until 7:45 p.m. 7:45 because the library closes at 8. So that gives us 15 minutes to pack up and head out. Um, yeah, it's a great time. I love my knitting group so much. But last week, one of the members of the group, sorry, last week one of the members of the group brought in a bunch of cones of sport weight acrylic. Apparently, they got it from their husband's co-worker's mom. I know, kind of long and convoluted, but their husband's co-worker's mom was getting rid of it. And it was just up for grabs. Anyone in the group could grab any of it, except she did have 2 giant red cones of the yarn. We were not allowed to grab those. The rule was you had to wind off a quantity to knit a Melt the Ice hat. And in case you're not familiar with the Melt the Ice hat, it is a pattern that originally came from the yarn shop Needle and Skein in St. Louis Park, Minnesota. And it is a hat that protests ice being in the Twin Cities. I don't currently have the motivation to make a hat because I'm just not a huge hat knitter. But I do have a hat that I made in 2019 that is close enough. This is the Victoria Hat and Cowl by Stephen B. And the reason it's hat and cowl is because it's got this drawstring, this I-cord, and you untie it, and then it opens up into a cowl. Normally, it would be a super cool pattern, but I picked really itchy yarn. I'm not going to lie. I almost never wear this hat. When I went to my knitting group tonight, because it's Thursday when I'm filming this, I actually forgot to wear it, but I wore it to my men's knitting group last night. So, because guys, I go to 4 different knitting groups. 2 of them meet weekly, and 2 of them meet once a month. So, yeah. Um, but I can still tolerate it as a hat. I just am itching my forehead constantly. So as soon as the ice stuff is over, I'm going to go back to my regular winter hat. Although by then it might be warm enough where I don't need to wear a hat. So I don't know. But I am wearing this in lieu of a melt ice hat because I have other things I need to get done. But definitely, if you are so inclined to knit a hat, the melt the ice hat would be a great one to do in protest of ice. Just make sure you knit it in red. That was the whole reason the cones were even brought in, is because, hey, there's 2 huge cones of red yarn, and red yarn's hard to come by. Would you guys like to wind off a hat quantity? And then she just happened to have all the other ones with her. Um, so the first sweater I got yarn for, and some of the contrast colors she had partial cones of that I grabbed because it's all I need. Excuse me. And all of these cones of yarn are exactly the same, just in different colors. Um, so this is Mary Lou's Yarn Symphony. 100% acrylic, sport weight, 2,100 yards. So 2,100 yards. So I have this one, and it's called medium gray. This is my main color for my sweater. And then here's my 3 contrast colors. Again, this is a partial cone. Sorry, there's pieces of hair on it. This is a partial cone. This one is called yellow. It's called yellow. More of a pale yellow, I would say. But yeah, that's my first contrast color. Then my second contrast color is medium blue. And then my third contrast color, I really like the color, but they only had a full cone of, is this one. This is called Pale Terracotta. So it's going to go in this order, with the gray as my main color. I think that's going to look really nice. So the pattern I'm going to do with this is the Hide and Peak by Maxim Cyr, or Max the Knitter from Les Garçons. I think it's just a really nice, attractive looking sweater, and the only thing I'm nervous about is the fact that that yarn is acrylic. I'm nervous to see how the yoke will block out if I make my floats too tight accidentally. But overall, I think it's going to be a nice sweater. And then the second sweater that I got yarn for, I have this. So my main color is going to be the olive green, and my contrast will be the other one, the purple. Sorry, there's a bunch of hair on this cone, because I had it sitting on the floor all day because I didn't want to put things away after my first filming failed, so I kept things out and ready to film the second take. So it accumulated hair for some reason. Um, but this color is called olive, and this color is called plum. And it's still the same yarn, the Mary Lou Symphony yarn. Um, so, yeah. I'm going to be knitting the Ooey Gooey sweater by Andrea Mowry out of it. So, yeah, the Ooey Gooey sweater was Andrea Mowry's 2025 Rhinebeck sweater. But I think that yoke is just super fun. I love it so much. And it's a sport weight pattern, so yeah. So again, the olive is the main color and the plum is the contrast color. But I really like those colors together, so yeah. So I definitely am looking forward to that project. Don't know when I'm going to get around to it because I do have some other priorities first, but yeah, looking forward to that. Ooey gooey sweater. It's just fun to say ooey gooey. It's just fun to say, you know. Anyways, that is everything that I have to share with you guys. So, I'm Andrew. Thank you for checking in here at the Neon Knitter. And this time my microphone didn't die, so I'll get this uploaded and I'll see you in my next video.